Hello, trading is closed on the 12th of January 2021. We always start with our disclaimer, then we go over our calls, make our predictions last. Just to remind you, MEJT is an intraday trading system. It's highly accurate, nothing works every time, and I could be wrong. The other calls aren't based on the system. They don't have the same level of accuracy. If we gap sharply in the undesired direction, calls killed before the open. My email is mejt.trades@gmail.com. Had a few calls. I wanted a pattern with the early low. This is it. Tomorrow also has the early low. Pattern typically is a rally day with a high in the final hour. Here's the high, but it isn't a high of the pattern. It's usually negative. Early weakness leads to further declines, but time doesn't run out until tomorrow's open. So if we gap and promptly overtake today's high, all is forgiven. But if we don't do that, we should see lower prices. We do have a lower target, 3790.46. Unless we gap up smartly, that's my call for tomorrow. Now we had some calls for yesterday, 3817.06. It works 95% of the time. It didn't work yesterday. We'll forget that one. Other target was 3817.37. That didn't print. I will add it to the list. As I've said many times, MEJT typically leaves a failed target at major changes in trend, and this certainly is a candidate for a major change in trend. So this was one missing piece of the puzzle, and now it's there. Now this could still print tomorrow, I don't know. But this looks pretty ominous to me that we didn't have to do much to invalidate the big sell signal we got earlier in the week, and we still haven't been able to do it. So just a reminder of what we said. Early on we got an ultimate buy signal, just means there's a higher target, and that printed pretty fast. This drop was called by MEJT to be false, said prices would retrace into this range, and they did. Here it gave a sell signal, has not played out. We have a target for tomorrow, 3790.46. Well, this was the big sell signal we got last week. Initially, all we had to do was to trade 1 penny past Friday's close. Now it's the high. Once you do that, it's an invalidated signal. But until that happens, it remains alive. There have been other signals all the way up too. And until some prior lows fall, it's tough to risk money on it. But there is still a big sell signal in effect until this high falls. It hasn't been confirmed. We have this cup with a handle sloping up. We're getting close to this lower trend line. If we break this and keep it, we don't just reverse it immediately, the target's to undercut the low of this cup, and that's in the 3200s. So if this trend line breaks, there's a long way down. It hasn't broken yet. This was my initial count. That hasn't been invalidated either. Calls for 3920, and if we recover past recent highs, it's still a plausible target. But this isn't the only way to count this. If you move this A over to here, which breaks no rules, you can see all the Fibonacci wave confluence at the top here. You got your A, you got your B, you got your C. All the waves work. To me, it involves fudging a little bit to call C here, even though it works ABC. It doesn't break any rules. It just looks a bit contrived, but as long as it breaks no rules, it's a valid count. And if we break through support here, again, if that happens, it's a long way down. This isn't a healthy pattern. It's compatible with churning at the top. And even though it hasn't broken yet, it certainly is vulnerable to breaking. Norm Winsky had an interview with me earlier today. He gives the astrological reason for a major change in trend coming soon. I encourage you to watch what he has to say. He's been pretty good. Wednesday's pattern has the early low. We could gap up. We have a lower MEJT target. Unless we gap up smartly, it's favored to print. Yesterday's optional target only fails to print by today. 5% of the time, we'll forget it. But the required target failed gets added to the list, and since the system typically leaves a failed target at major changes in trend, that's one element of a major top that was missing until today. Today, buying of calls swamped buying of puts, even though the market changed essentially, even though the market closed essentially unchanged. It's also typically seen near a high. Today's pattern normally is a bullish pattern, but if we don't gap and promptly overtake today's high, lower prices should print, and we're not far away from breaking major support. Until it breaks, you can't be certain the high's in. Friday's high should fall at some point, but that doesn't preclude dropping first. It wouldn't take much more downside action to trigger a severe slide, but until that happens, we could still recover from here. We've done that before. So here's my target, 3790.46. But this pattern, without rallying to a new high, typically leads to lower prices. And once we drop enough, wouldn't take much more to take us down into the 3200s. Until that happens, we could still recover, but it's getting riskier and riskier to stay long here, in my humble opinion. And that is today's call.